Pick your niche and just get started. Easier said than done, right? So how do we get there? How do we decide to pick a niche that suits our needs and our goals? And I thought it's a good idea to share my process and my thoughts that went into selecting Onchain Journal and the crypto niche for this journey. But first, let's take a step back. What is Onchain Journal? So Onchain Journal is the first channel that I created for myself 3 months ago. It's the channel that I decided to share with all of you guys and share the journey, all my lessons, all the nitty-gritties, all the successes, and we'll see where we end up in the end. And it's a channel focused on the crypto niche and the crypto space. But why did I pick the crypto niche? There's so many different topics I could have been talking about. And yes, you're right. In fact, 2 years ago, when I first had the idea of creating content, my first thought was digging into communication and leadership because my day-to-day job as a director of engineering involved a lot of people-centric topics. And one of my strengths was, or is, to identify nuances in communication styles and where people break down in communication and can't get a message through to each other. That's where I think I did a decent job. And that also led to good leadership skills, not only communication, but like overall, I would say that made me also a decent leader. And so I had a lot of things that I could share in this space. But my goal was different back then. Back then, my goal was just to do it on the side as a hobby, see what happens, and start sharing my knowledge. And that's probably for most of you the case. So the goal is just like to share your passion and the knowledge that you have and the nitty-gritties. And that changed for me when I needed to decide if I wanted to stay in my company or not. So in the end, I let it go. I did not create the communication and leadership channel just due to the fact that I didn't find any time and energy to execute on that. And when the time came to like make a decision, I needed to sit down again and think about like, how can I make a living from content creation? And that's very fundamentally different from my goal of just starting, creating, sharing in the end. So I needed to see a path of what do I want to create and how can I make a living? And in that point in time, when I made the decision, I had a whole different idea, namely the crypto space. A year ago, just like late summer last year, that's when I started wrapping my head around the crypto space. And I was very passionate, learning hundreds and hundreds of hours just about like the different technologies, the different projects, all the different terminology, and thought that it's incredibly complicated to wrap your head around. And I was wondering, how in the world does anyone want to go beyond Bitcoin and Ethereum and understand everything? It's just very complicated. So that's when I first thought I might be onto something eventually. And we had this group of friends. We had all the common interests of crypto and Web3. And we were always sharing knowledge with each other when one day we were saying, like, we should actually create something. We were pretty much annoyed that most of the crypto content creators were focused on the wealth building and promoting projects on like 100x gains or 1000x gains, but really there was lacking a sense of humility and education. There are many good, great channels out there for education as well, but like I think the majority is just dishonest in a way. But how is that different from communication and leadership? We could still went for that way path in the end. And yes, but I didn't see a path for communication and leadership on how to build a business in that moment. And to be fair, maybe I didn't give it enough of a chance, and it might still become a topic in the future when maybe I build my business and I need to like lead people again. That's maybe something that I can share then. But in that moment in time, I was just like recency biased towards all the stuff and the passion that was going on for crypto. And I also saw a path of how to eventually monetize. And for me, that is one of the goals at some point, not now, but like I need to make a living from it. Again, fundamentally different from just gonna start, see where it goes and make this a hobby. I made the decision to go all in. We'll see if that works out or not. And for me, I always need to keep in mind, how am I going to make money at some point in time? So when I went back and did my homework, I first of all wrote down my goals that I just talked about, but then you also need to see if the niche fits your goals as well. If you're just a hobbyist and just passionate about a certain topic and want to share it, it's maybe less important to write everything down and pick a niche, and you will just go for your passion. But if you want to at some point monetize and become a content creator full-time and be able to live from it sustainably, you probably need to consider other factors as well. And so for me, it was the size of the niche. Like, how big is the niche? How many interested people are there? Then are there clear boundaries? I think it's very important to have clear boundaries, because if you talk about everything, like many people talk about finding their niche along the way, like Ali Abdaal, he at some point landed onto productivity, and that's what worked. And he tried many different things along the way. But you can also prepare yourself already and think about the things that you want to create as well. So think about the size of the niche, what are the clear boundaries? And for crypto, it has very clear boundaries. It's, yes, in the kind of finance space, investment space, but crypto is a very peculiar and particular topic to dig into. Then how could you monetize eventually in the end? I can probably create some digital products around it, on guides, how to get into crypto. I could probably offer consulting services on how to guide people into the crypto space and onboard them. I could do some partnerships eventually with other crypto companies or software or platforms to maybe shed some light, introduce those platforms to my viewers eventually. And if you think of monetization as a goal, then probably you want to figure out, generally, is there money in the space? Are people willing to pay money to gain more knowledge and educate themselves in this space? For some very particular topics, maybe it's a bit more difficult. You know, I have also the passion of road cycling. If I become a road cycling content creator, that's something I don't see right now how I can eventually build products and monetize that in the long run. So that fell out of the picture for me at the very least. And then there are two additional things that come into play that made me decide to go for the crypto space. And namely, I saw there's a lot of momentum coming in this year into the crypto space. I was predicting that a lot of retail investors will get into crypto because of a so-called Bitcoin halving event that happened back in April. And so people will want to know how to get involved, maybe invest into meme coins, some other projects and whatsoever. So I thought the momentum will help me build growth in this space. And lastly, of course, I had friends who would help me out, and I have no experience in content creation and knowing the nitty-gritties of all the different platforms. Funny enough, I was never big on creating content privately for myself. I was more a passive engaged content consumer, I would say. So it was good to have three friends who would help you. They still have like all their day jobs, but it kind of felt like embarking on a journey with a team and not just by myself. So that helped a lot in the decision-making process as well. Reflecting back on the past 3 months, was it the right decision to pick the crypto niche? Well, yes, absolutely, because I'm still incredibly passionate about this space, and it's so much fun to create content in different forms and whatsoever. But am I happy where I stand now? Will I be able to monetize this? Maybe it will take a bit longer than expected. That's what I'm thinking right now. I'm currently sitting at 167 followers after 3 months and 33 videos produced. And going back to the momentum point, I think there's a lot of momentum lacking actually at the moment. So the Bitcoin halving happened, but right now the market crash happened on Monday. So there's a lot of fear in the market, and that doesn't help if you want to create content and get people excited about crypto in general. So in the end, I have to adapt a lot, right? There's a lot of fear in the market, maybe not so many eyes in the crypto space. And in general, I can see how the content creators in the crypto space are not growing as much. It's usually also an indicator for how the bull run is going eventually. I still think it will change eventually, September, October, November, when the Fed cuts their rates. Maybe there's a bit more traction and more interest that comes into the crypto niche in general. Until then, I just keep on adapting, trying to find ways of things that people in the crypto space are interested in and what can entertain them as well. So that's a topic for a different video, but that's where I stand right now. Continue to adapt. I'm still very passionate about it. So of course, carry on. Rome was not built in a day, folks, right? So you need to stay consistent and continue to believe in what you're doing. Am I happy that the videos I produce get like 50 to 100 views sometimes? Of course not, right? But that's part of the game. And I think we should all stay patient and stay consistent and just continue to adapt. Maybe I need to ramp up and like produce a lot more content. That's what I'm thinking right now, and find ways of how to do that. But in general, I'm very happy where I am. And that said, maybe the crypto niche is not the only area that I'm going to create. This, in the end, is also another niche that I'm creating. And this is more the niche of entrepreneurship in general, maybe vlogging or whatever you think this is what I'm doing here. So to conclude things, what is your takeaway for this video? So I like to go back to Ali Abdaal. He said, what is your competitive advantage? Have you thought about that? What could it be? And what competitive advantage means is like, what are topics that you are incredibly passionate about, where you know more than others? May it be through the job, may it be through some hobbies that you've done. What are things where you think you just simply know more than others? And this is a good way to start for you to pick your niche. And then you need to define your goals. For me, my goal is to make a full-time living, and I need to make a full-time living at some point. So I have a bit of time pressure over here. But for most people, they start off with creating content on the side and as a hobby. And there you can just like get going, get started, see how it goes, learn the nitty-gritties of the content space. But if you do want to make a living out of it and see already the long-term goal, then you also need to do your homework and write this down and think about, what do I want to create? What is my path, right? Like, what could I eventually create from this eventually? And we can think here of like the size of the niche, right? Is there money in the space? Is there just lack of education in that space? Is there momentum in that space? Is there anything else that can help you get into this niche even faster, or like have even a bigger advantage compared to other content creators who get started? So pick your niche and get started. That's the message of this video. So think about, what is your competitive advantage? In fact, like, what is your competitive advantage? Let me know in the comments down below. What are you incredibly passionate about? Like, let's have a discussion on what you think could work for yourself or not. What are your goals eventually? Why are you watching this video in the first place? So let me know in the comments down below. Also, I'm starting to create a community at some point, or want to create a community at some point. So I added a Google form link down below where you can add your email address. And when I found enough people who are interested, we can launch a Discord or Slack channel where we can then share our knowledge with each other. But until then, please make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more updates to see if I'm successful or not in the end. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.